One of the things we often need to do in programming is keep lists of numbers. You might want to repeat something a certain number of times or keep track of the order in which players entered a game. It's easy enough to just manually type out numbers when you're only dealing with a few, but if you needed a list of 100 or 1,000 or a million, you can imagine that would become impossible quite quickly. Let's take a look at this example that I have here. We're taking a list of the numbers 1 through 5 and just printing them to the screen. Let's save it and run it and see what it outputs. Great. You can see that Python's gone through one by one and printed each of the elements of the list. What if I needed to change this to print out the numbers 1 through 10? Yes, I could simply add each of those numbers and make my list even longer, but let's use the range function to see how that works. Let's go ahead and do range 1 and then 10. We'll save it, and then we'll run it. Great. We've printed out the numbers 1 through 9, but you'll see that we didn't quite get to 10. That's because Python goes through the numbers 1 through 10, but it stops once it gets to 10, so it never actually gets to the print statement for the number 10. This is a classic example of an off by 1 error in computer programming, and it's a really easy one to make. So let's go ahead and change this to 11, save it, and run it again. Now we're properly outputting the numbers 1 through 10. Instead of looping through, let's just print the range and see what happens. Save it and then run it. As you can see, Python didn't actually print out the numbers 1 through 11. It just printed out range and then 1 and 11. If we wanted to turn this into an actual list, we could do that by using the list function. Let's go ahead and do that. Add list, and then another closing parentheses, and we'll save it, and let's run it. We've now converted this to an actual list, and we can access each of the individual numbers. So that's ranges. They can be really helpful if you're wanting to generate a numerical list, or if you want to do something a certain number of times. Go ahead and play around with them and see what other ranges you can generate. Have fun!